Jack Miller yawned as he guided his transport ship through the quiet darkness of space. The cargo hold was full of Earth's most valuable export, coffee beans. It was a simple job, just the way he liked it. 15 years of space trucking had taught him that boring meant profitable, and profitable meant he could keep his independence. The ship's computer beeped softly, interrupting his thoughts. Unknown vessel detected. The mechanical voice was calm, unlike Jack's suddenly racing heart. In this part of space, unknown usually meant trouble. 3 sleek, silver ships emerged from behind an asteroid field. Their design was unlike anything Jack had seen before, all sharp angles and glowing purple lines. They moved with impossible grace, cutting through space like knives through butter. "Attention, Earth vessel," a cold voice crackled through his communication system. "This is Commander Gray of the Claw Empire. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Jack's hands tightened on the controls. The Claw Empire. Everyone knew about them. The self-proclaimed superior species who saw other races as lab rats for their experiments. He hit the emergency beacon, but the signal died before it could leave his ship. "Signal jamming detected," his computer announced helpfully. Jack cursed under his breath. He could try to run, but his transport ship was built for reliability, not speed. The alien vessels were already surrounding him in a triangle formation. "Power down now, or we will disable your ship by force." The voice had an edge to it now, like a teacher losing patience with a stubborn student. Jack weighed his options. His ship had no weapons. Earth's treaties with other species forbade armed merchant vessels. Fighting wasn't an option. Running would just drain his fuel and end with the same result. Maybe if he cooperated, they'd be less likely to. A purple beam shot from the lead ship, hitting Jack's engine. His controls went dead. "Poor choice, human." Commander Gray's voice held a hint of amusement, but expected from a primitive species. Jack's ship shuddered as something locked onto his airlock. The sound of metal cutting through metal filled the cabin. He grabbed the emergency knife from under his seat, not that it would do much good against whatever was coming. The airlock door exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped 3 tall figures. They wore sleek armor that seemed to absorb light, making them look like walking shadows. Their helmets had no visible eyes, just smooth, reflective surfaces that showed Jack his own terrified face. "Subject appears male," one of them said in a clicking language that Jack's translator barely caught, showing expected signs of fear response. "Typical human behavior," another agreed. "They all react the same way." Jack gripped his knife tighter. "I'm a registered merchant under the Galactic Trade Agreement. You have no right to." A burst of purple energy hit him in the chest. His muscles locked up, and he fell to the floor, unable to move but fully conscious. Their constant citing of laws is tiresome. Commander Gray stepped through the airlock. Unlike the others, his armor had purple lines running through it, pulsing like veins. "Bring him to Interrogation Chamber 1. The Council wants to know more about Earth's defenses, and this one looks durable enough for our methods." The soldiers lifted Jack like he weighed nothing. As they carried him through the airlock, he caught a glimpse of his ship through the observation windows. The transport that had been his home for 15 years looked small and vulnerable next to the Claw Empire's vessel. "Don't worry, human," Commander Gray said, walking beside them. "You'll be contributing to the advancement of a superior species. Be proud. Most primitives don't get such an honor." Jack wanted to respond, but the paralysis field held firm. As they carried him deeper into the alien ship, he noticed something strange. The paralyzing energy was already starting to feel weaker. Maybe it wasn't calibrated properly for human biology. It wasn't much, but it was something. And right now, something was better than nothing. The interrogation chamber looked exactly like Jack expected. Cold, metallic, and filled with devices he'd rather not think about. The paralysis field had worn off enough that he could feel the metal restraints cutting into his wrists and ankles. He was strapped to a chair that seemed designed to be as uncomfortable as possible. Commander Gray stood before him, examining a glowing purple screen. Interesting. Your heart rate is elevated, but not as much as our data suggests it should be. Are all humans this controlled? Jack stayed quiet. The less he said, the less they could use against him. The commander's featureless helmet turned towards him, studying him like a curious insect. Bring in the neural suppressant, Gray ordered. A smaller alien wheeled in a cart with various devices that glowed with the same purple energy their ships used. Level 1 should be sufficient for a primitive nervous system. The assistant picked up something that looked like a silver crown with purple crystals embedded in it. Jack tried to pull away, but the restraints held firm. The device settled onto his head with a cold click. Now, human. Commander Gray's voice took on an almost gentle tone. Tell us about Earth's orbital defense systems. Jack felt a strange tingling in his brain, like static electricity. The device was trying to make him speak, to pull the words right out of his mind. But something felt off. Instead of overwhelming his thoughts, the sensation seemed to be getting duller by the second. The device appears to be malfunctioning, the assistant said, checking readings on a screen. Neural suppression is at only 40% effectiveness and dropping. Commander Gray's posture stiffened. Impossible. Increase to level 2. The tingling sensation doubled, then tripled. Jack's head hurt, but his thoughts remained clear. In fact, the pain was helping him focus. Years of long-haul space flights had taught him to work through discomfort. Still no effect, the assistant reported, a note of worry in their clicking voice. Subject's brain activity is adapting to the suppression field. How? Gray demanded. These are proven techniques. They work on every species we've encountered. Jack couldn't help but smile. Maybe you need better equipment. The commander's hand shot out, grabbing Jack's jaw. You find this amusing, primitive. Let's see how you handle our truth serum. Prepare the injection. The assistant loaded a purple liquid into something that looked like a fancy syringe. Jack felt the cold needle pierce his neck, and warmth spread through his veins. His heart started racing, pumping faster than normal. Now, Gray leaned close. Tell me about Earth's defenses. Jack opened his mouth, feeling the serum trying to make him speak. But along with the warmth came a familiar sensation, the rush of adrenaline. His body was treating the truth serum like a threat, fighting it with natural chemicals. Earth is. Jack started, then grinned. Earth is really good at making coffee. Want to know about coffee? The assistant checked their readings again. Sir, his body is producing unknown compounds that are neutralizing the serum. And his neural activity, it's increasing instead of decreasing. Commander Gray slammed a hand on the cart, sending devices clattering. Impossible. No species has ever resisted level 2 interrogation. What are you hiding, human? Bad luck, Jack said, feeling stronger as his body continued pumping out adrenaline. You should have stuck to bullying easier targets. Prepare the level 3 protocols, Gray ordered. If this primitive thinks he can resist our methods, we'll show him true pain. As they prepared their next round of torture devices, Jack focused on the growing strength in his muscles. The truth serum mixed with his adrenaline was having an unexpected effect. He felt more alert, more alive. The restraints that had seemed unbreakable now felt less solid. These aliens were about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating humans, and Jack had a feeling they weren't going to enjoy the teaching method. Commander Gray paced the interrogation chamber, his armor's purple lines pulsing faster with each step. 2 hours had passed, and they were no closer to breaking the human. If anything, Jack Miller seemed more alert than when they started. Increase the neural suppressor to maximum power, Gray ordered. The assistant's hands shook as they adjusted the controls. Sir, these levels haven't been tested on. Do it. Gray's voice echoed off the metal walls. The crown on Jack's head hummed louder, and the purple crystals glowed brighter. Pain shot through his skull like lightning, but something strange was happening. Instead of clouding his thoughts, the pain was making everything sharper. Every detail of the room stood out in crystal clarity. His vital signs are impossible, the assistant said, checking their screens. Heart rate elevated, brain activity increasing, but no signs of distress. He should be unconscious by now. Jack laughed, a sound that made both aliens step back. You know what's funny? Back on Earth, I couldn't even handle a small headache without medicine. But this. He rolled his shoulders, feeling strength surge through his muscles. This is just making me angry. Gray grabbed another syringe of truth serum, this one glowing darker purple. Perhaps a concentrated dose will loosen your tongue. He jammed the needle into Jack's neck with enough force to make a normal person scream. Jack just smiled. Warning, the assistant's voice trembled. Subject's body is producing high levels of unknown compounds. The serum is being modified. Modified? Gray demanded. Modified how? The answer came in the form of a loud crack. One of Jack's restraints, designed to hold creatures 3 times stronger than a human, had developed a hairline fracture. Fascinating, isn't it? Jack's voice was eerily calm. You know, humans have something called fight or flight response. When we're in danger, our bodies produce chemicals that make us stronger, faster, more resistant to pain. And right now, another crack appeared in the restraint. Right now, you're giving my body a really good reason to fight. Gray grabbed a device from the cart, a neural scrambler that could disable most species' motor functions. Then we'll simply have to shut down your nervous system entirely. The scrambler activated with a high-pitched whine. Purple energy coursed across Jack's body, making his muscles spasm. For a moment, he went still. Finally, Gray said, "Now, let's." Jack's head snapped up. His eyes were clear, focused, and filled with an intensity that made even the emotionless commander step back. You really should have researched humans better. Another restraint cracked. We've got this thing called second wind. When we're pushed too far, when our bodies should give up. The crack widened. We get stronger instead. The assistant was backing toward the door. Sir, his readings. I've never seen anything like this. The combination of our serums and his natural chemicals is creating something new, something we can't control. Gray raised his arm, preparing to call for security. But Jack moved first. The damaged restraint finally broke, freeing his right arm. In one fluid motion, he grabbed the neural scrambler and turned it on Gray. The commander dropped to the floor, his own device overwhelming his nervous system. Security breach in Interrogation Chamber 1. The assistants slammed their hand on an alarm panel. Red lights began flashing throughout the room. Containment failure. Subject is. They never finished the sentence. Jack, running on a mixture of adrenaline, alien truth serum, and pure human survival instinct, had already reached them. One quick movement, and the assistant joined their commander on the floor. As alarms blared through the ship, Jack worked on freeing his other limbs. He could hear boots pounding down the hallway, security forces responding to the alarm. But instead of fear, he felt a strange sense of anticipation. These aliens had wanted to learn about humans. Well, they were about to get a very practical lesson in human nature. And Jack had a feeling it was going to be a lesson they'd never forget. Security forces poured into the interrogation chamber, their black armor making them look like moving shadows. 6 elite guards, each carrying weapons designed to subdue creatures much larger than a human. They found Jack standing calmly in the center of the room, Commander Gray and the assistant still unconscious at his feet. "Fascinating tech you've got here," Jack said, examining the neural scrambler in his hand. His voice was steady, despite the cocktail of alien drugs and human hormones flowing through his system. "Mind if I borrow it?" The guards raised their weapons. "Drop the device and return to restraints," their leader ordered. "This is your only warning." Jack's smile made them all take a step back. Here's the thing about humans. We're really good at using other people's tools. He pressed a button on the scrambler, having already figured out its simple controls. Purple energy shot out, catching 2 guards before they could dodge. The remaining guards opened fire. Beams of purple energy filled the air, but Jack was already moving. The truth serum mixed with adrenaline had given him something impossible: perfect clarity. He could see every beam's path before it hit, his enhanced mind calculating angles and trajectories. Subject displaying impossible reaction times. 1 guard spoke into their communicator. Requesting. Jack's fist interrupted the transmission. The guard's armor, designed to absorb energy weapons, did nothing against the simple physics of human bone meeting metal at high speed. You know what else humans are good at. Jack dodged another blast, his movements becoming more fluid with each passing second. Learning. We learn really, really fast. He demonstrated by copying a combat move he'd just seen, taking down another guard with their own fighting style. The 2 remaining guards backed toward the door. One reached for a red cylinder on their belt, a last resort weapon. Chemical incapacitator deployed. They threw it at Jack's feet. Gas hissed out, filling the room with purple smoke. The guards waited, confident in their toxic weapon's ability to knock out any living creature. Jack walked through the smoke, completely unaffected. Sorry to disappoint, but my body's already dealing with about 5 different alien chemicals. What's one more? He held up the neural scrambler. Want to try something else? Instead of answering, the guards turned and ran. Jack let them go. He was more interested in the computer terminal they'd left unguarded. His enhanced mind, running far beyond normal human limits thanks to the alien drugs, easily decoded their simple security systems. Ship schematics. Defense protocols. Oh, this is good. His fingers flew over the alien keyboard. Years of operating different spacecraft had taught him the basics of most control systems. The alien's superior technology was actually quite simple once you understood the basics. A message flashed on the screen. Warning. Uncontrolled chemical reaction detected in subject's bloodstream. Predicted survival time. 10 minutes. Jack laughed. The aliens' instruments still couldn't understand human biology. What they saw as a fatal chemical reaction was just his body adapting, becoming stronger. He could feel it. Every cell in his body was operating at peak efficiency. His mind was clearer than it had ever been, and the pain had transformed into pure energy. Security containment team approaching. The computer announced. Estimated arrival. 30 seconds. Jack downloaded the ship's layouts into a portable device he'd taken from one of the guards. They'd given him everything he needed. Enhanced strength, perfect mental clarity, and now a map of their ship. Time to show them just how dangerous a primitive species could be. As he stepped over the unconscious guards and into the corridor, Jack felt almost grateful to Commander Gray. The alien had wanted to break a human's limits. Instead, he'd helped Jack discover that human limits were far beyond what anyone, human or alien, had imagined. The sound of approaching troops echoed through the corridor. Jack checked the ship's layout one more time, then started running. The real fun was about to begin. Red emergency lights flashed through the corridors of the Claw Empire's ship as Jack ran. Behind him, he could hear the heavy footsteps of security teams. Ahead, more guards were setting up defensive positions. They had him surrounded, or so they thought. Attention all personnel. A voice echoed through the ship's speakers. Human subject displaying unprecedented abilities. Do not engage directly. Use long-range suppression weapons only. Jack grinned as he sprinted down the purple-lit hallway. The aliens still didn't understand. Every weapon they'd used had only made him stronger. The mixture of truth serum and neural suppressants in his system had created something new, a perfect storm of human adaptation and alien chemistry. A group of guards appeared ahead, manning a portable energy barrier. Stop or be destroyed, their leader called out. The barrier hummed with deadly purple energy. Thanks for the suggestion, Jack called back. But I've got a better idea. He didn't slow down. Instead, he accelerated, running straight at the barrier. He's insane, one guard said. No organic being can survive contact with. Jack hit the barrier at full speed. For a moment, purple energy crackled around him, but instead of stopping him, it seemed to flow into his body, merging with the cocktail of chemicals already in his system. The barrier shattered like glass. The guards scattered as Jack burst through, his body now literally glowing with absorbed energy. Impossible. Their leader shouted into his communicator. Subject has absorbed barrier energy. Repeat, subject is now energy reactive. You folks really need to stop using that word, Jack said, his voice carrying an electric undertone. Impossible just means you don't understand what's happening. He reached for the nearest wall panel, remembering the ship schematics he'd memorized. His enhanced mind had already figured out the ship's basic systems. With one quick motion, he rerouted power from the corridor's gravity generators. Guards floated helplessly as artificial gravity failed. But Jack, who'd spent years working in zero-gravity environments, moved like he was born to it. He pushed off walls, using the floating guards as stepping stones to reach his target, the ship's main engineering section. Seal all bulkheads, someone ordered over the speakers. Heavy metal doors began closing throughout the ship. Jack laughed. They still thought they could contain him with physical barriers. He'd already absorbed enough energy from their weapons and barriers to power a small city. His cells had adapted to process the alien energy, turning him into something that was neither fully human nor purely organic anymore. A bulkhead slammed shut in front of him. Jack placed his hand on it, feeling the energy flowing through the ship's systems. With his new awareness, the ship's power grid was like a map in his mind. He found what he was looking for, a weakness in the power flow. Purple energy crackled from his fingers into the door. The bulkhead systems overloaded, and it slid open with a grinding sound. Engineering section breached. The panic in the announcement was clear now. All personnel evacuate. Repeat, evacuate immediately. Jack stepped into engineering, surrounded by the huge purple crystals that powered the ship. The sight would have been beautiful if he hadn't been so focused on his goal. Freedom was close now, but he needed one more thing. Stop, a familiar voice called out. Commander Gray stood on an upper platform, holding what looked like a much bigger version of the neural scrambler. This ends now, human. You're right about one thing, Jack said, his enhanced body humming with gathered energy. This does end now, but not the way you think. The commander fired his weapon. Jack didn't try to dodge. Instead, he reached out and caught the beam with his bare hand. After all they'd done to him, after all the ways they'd forced his body to adapt, this was just one more power source to absorb. And he had plans for all this energy. Commander Gray watched in horror as Jack absorbed the energy from his weapon. The human's body glowed with purple light, crackling with more power than any organic being should be able to contain. The engineering room's emergency lights cast strange shadows as alien technology and human biology created something entirely new. What are you? Gray's voice shook for the first time since Jack had met him. I'm just a space trucker, Jack said, walking forward. But you just had to know more about humans, didn't you? Had to push and prod and see what made us tick. Purple energy danced between his fingers. Well, congratulations. You found out. Gray backed away, his armor's confident glow now dim with fear. The ship's self-destruct sequence has been activated. You'll never escape. Actually, Jack pointed to the engineering controls behind him. I already disabled that. Turns out when you pump someone full of truth serum and neural enhancers, then force their brain to operate at maximum capacity, they get pretty good at understanding alien technology. He tapped his temple. Human brains are amazing at adapting. We just needed the right push. Security forces burst into the room, weapons ready, but they froze when they saw Jack's glowing form and their commander's obvious fear. Here's what's going to happen, Jack said calmly. I'm taking one of your ships. The small fast one in Hangar 3 should do nicely. Anyone who tries to stop me will learn exactly what happens when human survival instincts meet alien energy weapons. You can't pilot our technology. one guard said, but without much conviction. Jack laughed. Your ships run on the same energy you pumped into my body. Right now, I can feel every system, every power flow. It's like, he searched for the right words, it's like the ship is already part of me. To demonstrate, he raised his hand. Purple energy flowed from him into the nearest console. Screens lit up, systems activated, and the entire engineering section responded to his will. Impossible, Gray shouted. Our systems require years of training to. There's that word again, Jack interrupted. You still don't get it, do you? Humans don't just adapt to survive. We adapt to win. He turned to face the commander fully. Want to see what else I've learned? Before anyone could react, Jack released a burst of stored energy, not enough to harm anyone. He was still human enough to avoid unnecessary violence, but enough to overload every weapon and communication device in the room. The guards' advanced technology sparked and died in their hands. Now, Jack said, walking toward the exit, I'm leaving. But first, a message for your leaders. He faced the room's security camera, knowing the ship's highest commanders would be watching. Humanity isn't primitive. We're not weak. Every time you try to break us, we get stronger. Remember that the next time you think about attacking Earth. No one tried to stop him as he walked through the corridors to the hangar. The few crew members he passed pressed themselves against walls, their body language showing a fear their featureless helmets couldn't hide. The ship he'd chosen sat waiting, its sleek form promising the speed he'd need to escape. As he approached, he felt its systems responding to the energy flowing through his body. The ship's engines hummed to life before he even touched them. Warning, the ship's computer announced as he entered the cockpit. Unauthorized access detected. Jack placed his hand on the control panel. Purple energy flowed from his fingers, and the computer's resistance melted away. Not unauthorized anymore, he said with a smile. Let's go home. As the stolen ship burst from the hangar at impossible speed, Jack thought about the cargo of coffee beans still sitting in his old transport. He'd have to come back for them someday. After all, he had a delivery to make. And now he had quite a story to tell when he reached his destination. 1 month after Jack Miller's escape, the highest council of the Claw Empire gathered in their grand chamber. The usually confident leaders sat in uncomfortable silence as they watched the recording from the interrogation ship for the 100th time. The image of a glowing human walking calmly through their most advanced security measures still sent chills through their spines. The human survived, the head counselor announced, breaking the silence. Our tracking systems detected his stolen ship reaching Earth safely. More importantly, he retained the changes our interrogation caused. Impossible, one counselor started, then quickly stopped as others turned to glare at him. That word had been banned from council meetings since the incident. The head counselor activated a holographic display showing medical data. Our spies report that his body has permanently adapted to process energy in ways we thought only machines could. Earth's scientists are studying him extensively. We must prevent them from learning. Another counselor began. It's too late. The head counselor's voice was heavy. The information is already spreading through galactic networks. The story of one human defeating our best security systems has reached every corner of known space. On cue, reports from various alien news sources floated in the air. Human trukikir, absorbed alien titsi inology, escap is unharmed. Kila empire interrogation. AACKFIR is human, EME or G is stronger. Warning. Humans kill a Sci-Fi as extremely dangerous species. Our reputation is ruined, one counselor moaned. Centuries of being known as the most feared empire in the galaxy, destroyed by one human cargo pilot. The head counselor raised a hand for silence. It's worse than that. We've received messages from 17 different species canceling their planned invasions of Earth. They're afraid that fighting humans will only make them stronger. New footage appeared, security camera video from trading stations and spaceports across the galaxy. Humans walking peacefully through crowds of aliens who quickly moved aside to give them space. The story had spread, and with it, a new understanding. Humans weren't just resistant to harm, they evolved to overcome it. There's more, the head counselor continued. Our scientists finally completed their analysis of the human's adaptation process. The display showed complex biological diagrams. It wasn't just the combination of our drugs and their biology. It was their minds. Human brains are constantly looking for ways to survive and improve. Given enough pressure, they can reshape their entire body to overcome any obstacle. The council chamber erupted in worried whispers. One brave counselor spoke up. What are we supposed to do with this information? We adapt, the head counselor said simply. Like they do. I've already ordered all interrogation chambers dismantled. We will approach humans with diplomacy from now on. Meanwhile, on Earth, Jack sat in a comfortable office, drinking coffee as government scientists studied the purple energy still flowing through his body. He'd told his story so many times that it had become almost routine. The capture, the interrogation, the escape. But the results were anything but routine. The changes are permanent, a scientist explained, showing him the latest test results. Your body has created entirely new systems to process and store energy. You're still human, but more. Jack nodded, watching purple sparks dance between his fingers. And the ship, he asked, thinking of the alien vessel he'd stolen. Still responding only to you, the scientist said. Whatever they did to you, it created a unique connection to their technology. We're hoping you'll help us understand it better. Jack smiled. He would help, of course. But first, he had something else to do. His new ship was waiting, its systems humming in harmony with his enhanced body. He had a cargo hold full of coffee to deliver, after all. And this time, if anyone tried to stop him, well, they'd learn the same lesson the Claw Empire had learned. Never underestimate a human's ability to adapt. Because what doesn't kill us doesn't just make us stronger, it makes us evolve. The message had been sent, loud and clear, across the galaxy. Humans weren't just another species to be conquered. They were a force of nature, constantly changing, constantly improving. And the galaxy would never be the same.